It was an unusually warm morning in the quiet little town nestled between the vast forest and rolling hills. The sun had just risen, casting golden beams of light through the trees. Tommy, a young boy of 7, was finishing his breakfast. The smell of pancakes filled in the house. Outside, birds chirped, and the soft rustling of leaves in the wind created a peaceful soundscape. It seemed like a perfect day to play outside, but Tommy could never have imagined what the day had in store for him. As he was about to head out the door, a loud knock echoed through the house. Tommy paused. It was strange. No one ever knocked like that. He peeked through the window, but saw nothing, only the calm street and the distant forest. His curiosity piqued. Tommy crept to the front door and slowly opened it, expecting to find a neighbor or perhaps a delivery. But what he saw left him completely frozen in place. Standing on the porch was a massive mother bear, her fur gleaming in the soft morning light. At her feet, 2 tiny cubs huddled together, their eyes wide and full of innocence. They were gazing up at Tommy, their little heads tilting in unison, as though they were just as confused as he was. The mother bear didn't move, but her gaze was fixed on Tommy, gentle yet intense. Tommy's heart began to race. The stories he had heard about wild animals were suddenly flooding his mind. Bears were dangerous, weren't they? He had been warned never to get close to them. But there was something different about this bear, something in her eyes. There was no aggression, no wildness, only a calm desperation. The mother bear took a cautious step forward, her huge paws making barely a sound on the wooden porch. The cubs followed, their small steps tentative but full of trust. Tommy stepped back, his mind racing. What should he do? The last thing he wanted was to upset the wild bear. But there was something inside him, a pull, an instinct, telling him not to turn away. As the mother bear approached, Tommy felt a wave of uncertainty flood his chest. Was this a trick? Was this safe? But then, the bear stopped, and her eyes softened. She let out a small grunt, almost a sigh, and gently nudged her cubs toward Tommy. In that moment, Tommy understood. The bears weren't here to harm him. They weren't here for food or trouble. They were here because they needed help. He glanced back into the house. His parents weren't home yet, and Tommy knew he couldn't just leave the bears outside. He'd heard about the dangers of poachers, the risks wild animals faced in the world. It wasn't just about the bears. It was about doing the right thing. With a quick glance at the cubs, who were now playfully nudging each other, Tommy made a decision. His hand shook slightly as he reached out, slowly opening the door wider. "It's okay," he whispered, more to himself than to the animals. "Come in." The moment the door opened just a little wider, the mother bear took another step forward, her massive form filling the doorway. She wasn't aggressive, she didn't push, but she came, her eyes full of trust. The cubs followed their mother, their tiny bodies moving cautiously past Tommy and into the warmth of the house. Their eyes darted around, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings with wide-eyed wonder. Tommy stood there for a moment, watching them. This wasn't something he had ever imagined happening in his lifetime. He had always thought of wild animals as creatures to be admired from a distance, not welcomed into his home. But these bears, this family, needed help. And in that moment, Tommy knew it was his duty to help them. His heart pounded in his chest as he quietly closed the door behind the bears. They were inside now, inside his house, safe from the cold. The mother bear looked at Tommy one more time, her gaze filled with gratitude. Tommy couldn't believe what was happening. There was no panic in her eyes, no fear, only trust. He watched as the mother bear lay down by the fireplace, her cubs moving closer to her for warmth and comfort. The room was filled with a calmness that Tommy had never felt before, as though nature itself had paused just for a moment to allow this extraordinary encounter to take place. Tommy slowly approached the mother bear, his heart still racing. He reached out a trembling hand and gently touched her fur. It was softer than he had imagined. The bear turned her head and looked at him, her eyes soft, and for a brief moment, Tommy felt a deep connection, a silent promise between them that everything was going to be okay. The sound of the cubs giggling brought Tommy out of his trance, and he smiled. This moment, he realized, was something special. He wasn't just helping these bears. They were showing him something too, something far more powerful than he had ever understood. And from that moment on, Tommy's life would never be the same again. As the day progressed, the strange yet magical presence of the bears in Tommy's home became the talk of the house. His parents had returned, their faces a mixture of shock and confusion when they saw the mother bear and her cubs settled in the living room. At first, they were hesitant, unsure of what to do. They had always been taught to fear wild animals, to keep a safe distance. But the scene before them, mother bear nuzzling her cubs, the cubs playing and rolling on the carpet like any ordinary pet, softened their initial fears. Tommy's mother, always a calm and kind-hearted woman, was the first to approach. She knelt down to one of the cubs, her eyes softening as it looked up at her, its small, curious face framed with fluffy fur. "They must have been lost," she murmured, looking at the mother bear, whose dark eyes held a quiet understanding. "I don't know if this is safe," Tommy's father said, his voice cautious but not unkind. He stood at the door, still unsure of the situation, but as he observed the peaceful interaction between the bears and Tommy, something in him shifted. These weren't aggressive, wild animals. They were in need. It was as though they were asking for help in the only way they knew how, by trusting Tommy. "It's all right," Tommy said, his voice calm and steady. "They're not hurting anyone. They just need a place to rest." Tommy's father looked at his son, then at the bear family. He could see it in the way the mother bear interacted with Tommy, how she seemed to trust him implicitly. The room was filled with a silent, unspoken bond between them. It wasn't just about survival, it was about something deeper, something rooted in trust. As the hours passed, Tommy sat beside the mother bear, gently stroking her soft fur as she rested. The cubs, tired from their long journey, eventually curled up next to her, their tiny bodies pressed together in warmth and comfort. The house, usually so quiet and calm, felt alive with a sense of connection. "What do we do now?" Tommy's mother asked, sitting beside him. She looked at the bear family, a gentle sadness in her eyes. "I don't think they can stay here forever." Tommy nodded, understanding the unspoken truth. The bears had come here for safety, for rest, but they could not stay in the house indefinitely. Yet as Tommy sat there, feeling the warmth of the mother bear's fur against his hand, he realized something else. The connection they shared was stronger than any fear or caution. The bears had come to him for help, and now he felt the need to help them in return. "I'll make sure they're okay," Tommy said, his voice quiet but determined. He didn't know how or what he would do, but he knew one thing for certain: he would protect them. That night, as the house fell into quiet slumber, Tommy lay in bed, thinking about the bears. He had heard stories from his grandparents about how animals, in their own way, could communicate with humans, but he had never believed it. Now, sitting in that room with the mother bear and her cubs, he felt it deep within him, an understanding that went beyond words. The bears didn't just need shelter. They needed a place to feel safe, to know that someone would look out for them. And in a way, Tommy realized they had given him something in return, a sense of purpose. He wasn't just a boy anymore. He was part of something bigger, a silent guardian for the creatures who had once roamed free in the wild. As he drifted off to sleep, the last thing Tommy saw in his mind's eye was the gentle face of the mother bear, her eyes locked on his, a silent promise between them that no matter what happened next, they would face it together. As the sun began to set, Tommy stood quietly at the edge of the forest, gazing into the trees where the mother bear and her cubs had disappeared. A sense of peace washed over him. He had helped them escape the hunters, but more than that, he had shared something extraordinary, an unspoken bond with these wild creatures. Tommy's heart swelled with pride and love. The bear family had come to him for protection, and in return, they had shown him the power of trust and compassion. It wasn't just about keeping them safe, it was about understanding that every creature, no matter how wild, seeks love and kindness. As night fell, Tommy knew that the bear family would be okay. They were in the wild where they belonged, but the piece of their story would always stay with him. And the next time he looked into the woods, he'd remember the gentle strength of the mother bear and the innocent playfulness of her cubs. Tommy returned to his home, a quiet smile on his face. The world felt different now, softer somehow, filled with the knowledge that love and courage could overcome any challenge, even the wildest of journeys.